Hey, hi everyone. Welcome back to my tutorials. So today we are going to see about TestNG annotations in detail. So we have seen only one TestNG annotation so far in my tutorials, that is @test. So in this particular video, we are going to go further and see about the remaining TestNG annotations. We will see what are the other TestNG annotations available, and we'll also see how to implement those TestNG annotations in our Selenium code. So the agenda of the video is that we have to understand what is TestNG annotation and what is the use of it and how to implement this in our Selenium code. Okay, so we will see all these step by step now. So as you can see, this is one test block. This test block has certain code, certain steps are available. So this is basically the webdriver manager.chromedriver.setup. Basically, I'm using a webdriver manager library. Okay, so that is why I'm not using the system.set property, chromedriver exe and all. So here you can see I have initialized the webdriver manager and I have created the object for this Chrome driver because I'm using Chrome browser in this particular test case. Similarly, I have used driver.get to get the URL on that particular browser, and I have used some more other methods, that is window.maximize, and I have read the title of the particular browser, and I am writing some simple codes here. Okay, and finally we have driver.quit. So all these steps I have put inside the same test block. Okay, so basically in real time, we don't basically provide everything in the same test block. So we basically distribute this particular test steps, this particular lines of code into different blocks. Okay. So how to distribute these steps across multiple blocks? So that's when the TestNG other annotations help in this particular case. Okay. So what is TestNG annotation? Basically, TestNG annotations are the controller of the flow of the execution. Okay. So what is this basically? These are the flow of the execution because there are so many steps available here. Okay. Once this is particular steps are done, then it will go to the next step, right? Then it will go to the next step. So every step has some certain activity to perform, correct? So all these steps we can distribute among different blocks. Okay, so those blocks are taken care by the TestNG notations. Okay, that is the main use of the TestNG notation, and I will show you an example how to implement those different types of TestNG notations. Okay, what are the different types of TestNG notations to perform this activity? So we have something called before and after. Okay, basically what do you want to do before the execution and what do you want to do after the execution? So all this can be combined in two sections, that is before and after. Okay, so let me explain all these TestNG annotations with some examples. Okay, so let me create one class under this package. So I'll give the test class name as annotations, something like that. I'm just giving annotations. So this is my class. Okay, so I'm going to implement, basically I'm going to show the examples of those TestNG notations. So the TestNG notations, as I said, it is always before and after. Okay, so I'll write something as before class. Okay, then I have to give a method, public void. I'll give it as something like run1, and then I will write here something like this is before class. Okay, so let me import this. Okay, import this annotation. So always remember that every TestNG notation has the method associated. Without writing the method, you cannot declare a TestNG notation. You cannot, basically there is no use. Basically you must use a method whenever you are declaring one TestNG notation. Okay, so let me write the next annotation at the rate before method. Okay, so let me run here public void run2. Okay, I will copy this line and I'll paste it here and I'll write it before method. Import this as well. Then similarly I will type at the rate before test. Then I will write public void run3. Then okay, so here I will write this is before test. Okay, let me import this again. Okay, I have written before class, before method, before test. So I'll explain about this all. Okay, how, what is the use of it, why I'm writing in this particular format. I will explain about this before writing the after block. So let me clarify one more point, that we have one more annotation. We have before suite. So here, let me run public void something like a run. Okay. So here, so let me import this. Okay, I'll write this block, but before that, let me explain about this line. Let me just enhance this particular line so that you can understand what I'm basically trying to do here. So basically, this is before class, before method, and before test. So whenever we are writing a test, right? So basically, let me write the test block here at the rate test. Okay, so test is the heart and soul of the Selenium code. Without at the rate test, you cannot execute any code. Okay, so here let me run like public void test sample, something I'm giving. Okay, here basically I will write system, and this is the test block. I'm just writing it. Okay, so let me import this. Let me import this. So what, so as you can see, as soon as I've imported the test engine notation, you can see run and debug also have come because I'm using a maven project. Okay, as I said, at the rate test is the heart and soul of the entire selenium test block. Okay, so without at the rate test you cannot execute any test case. I mean, in TestNG, you cannot execute. You can run as a Java application, but for that you have to use public static void main. But in real time, you must use @test to execute your test block. So basically, these other TestNG annotations are to provide support to this particular test block. Okay. As I was explaining in this blog, that everything is put inside it, but when we want to distribute all these test steps into multiple blocks, we have to use the other test blocks, other test annotations. Okay, so address test is used for running the test. Okay, but before running the test, what do you want to do, what activity you want to do? Okay, for that we have before test. Okay, before this particular test, what you want to perform, whatever you want to perform before executing this particular block, that you have to give in before test annotation. Okay, so this is before test. So what basically, just take example of a website. Okay, what do you do basically when you have to launch the browser and you have to enter the URL, then you have to provide the credential like login credential, right? There is a step-by-step process to execute one particular test case. Okay, so before this test case, what do you want to do? You want to launch the browser, right? Okay, so this is basically launching the browser. Okay, without launching the browser, you cannot execute the test block. So you must execute this particular block so that your browser gets launched. So that is why you have to include before test method. Okay, so that before executing this test, you have to launch the browser. That's why it is given in the before test block. So this is the purpose of before test. Okay, now after you have launched the browser, what do you want to do? You have to provide the URL. Okay, so that will come under the before class. Correct. So everything inside here is a class. So before class, before test is done, now you want to run the next step, that is before class. Okay, before executing this class, what do you want? So you want to provide the URL. You have launched the browser, now you have to call the URL. Okay, this is to get the. Okay, so after getting the URL, I mean after getting the URL, that is before class, what you have to do, you have to enter the login credential. I mean if the website has a login username password, then you have to enter that after getting the URL. After loading the browser with the URL, you will get a login page where you have to provide the username and the password so that you can log in. Which means that you have to include that within the before method annotation. Okay, so this is for the enter login credentials. So basically we have done before test, then it will go to before class, then it will go to before method. Okay, so this before sections are done. So apart from that, we also have something called before suite. Before suite will always execute first. Okay, so as I said here, before test is there, right? You need to launch the browser, but will the browser launch without getting the system.property of that particular Chrome driver? We need to do some setting up, right? We have to basically provide system.set properties. Without that, your browser also cannot start, correct? So all this can be put inside the before suite annotation. Okay, so this I can better call it as setup. Okay, I will not call it as a run. I'm just giving the method name as setup. So here I'm going to put those important blocks. I mean the system to set property, other this WebDriver installation, those can be put inside the before suite annotation. Okay, but I'm not going to put those as of now because I'm going to show that within the live that example how to implement it. But this is the concept I'm explaining, the meaning of the before suite, before class and all. Okay, and which place in which time it basically gets invoked, that I'm just explaining to you as of now. Okay, let me just give a sentence here, like setting up the drivers. Okay, so this is what the use of before suite. Now we are done with the before suite, before class, before method, before test. Okay, now we have understood what is the purpose of the before things, before sections. Now after the testing is complete, after the test block is executed, what do you want to do? Those things you have to put inside after test, after method, after class. All this after section will come now. Okay, so now I will write after method, after method. Okay, so let me give here public void run 4. So this block is basically whatever I want to do after the method is executed. So whatever I want to do, that particular thing I have to provide in the after method annotation. Okay, so let me give here uh, this is after, this is after method. So after method, what I want to do after executing the test block, I want to basically log out. Basically, let's say if you have logged into your application, if you want to log out, so that you can put inside your after method annotation. Okay, so I want to log out from my application, log out from the application. That will come under the after method. Okay, once after method block is executed, I want to go with the next one, that is after class, at the rate after class, public void run 5. Okay, so this is after class. So what do you want to do after this after class? Once the test class is executed, you want to basically close the driver, right? So you have basically done your test cases, you have performed your test execution, then you have logged out from the application, then you want to close the driver. So that block you can put inside the after class block. Okay, close the driver. So it is according to your project need, your as per your framework, you can provide whatever is required. You can basically put whichever block you want to put, it's up to you. Okay, so you can use one of the example I am giving. You can provide closing the driver, that driver quit inside after class annotation. Okay, so once after that is completed, now we have something called after test. Okay, so public void run 6 I'm giving. So here what you want to do, so this is after test. So once this is done, basically let's say you have done some testing right in this test block. Okay, so it has generated some data, some files. Those files, if you want to delete, you can put those things in the after test annotation so that you can delete those files. Okay, this is up to you. Whatever is according to your project, whatever is your need, you can give accordingly. Okay, it is not mandatory to give only deletion of files or something like that in the at the rate after test. I'm just giving an example. Okay, so here I'm just typing delete some files after your test case is completed, after your test case is executed. Okay, after that we have one more, the last annotation, that is at the rate after suite. Okay, because we have used before suite, then I'm using after suite, but it is not always mandatory to use this before suite, after suite. As I said, it is up to your framework. You can accordingly use the necessary important annotations. So I'm using after suite here, for example. So public void run 7 I'm giving. Okay, here this is after suite. So here let's say I want to basically share some results. I'm just giving this. Okay, so now this is done. Okay, So I have written all this before annotation section and after annotation section along with at the rate test. So let's execute this test and we will come to know which order is basically executing at which time. Okay, we'll come to know about the order of the execution. Okay, that is what we basically want to understand, right? Let's run this and we will see. Okay, so let's run this. So this is basically going to run the, it is going to give the priority first to the before suite one because we need to set up the driver before doing anything else. Okay, without setting up the driver, without initializing the WebDriver, you cannot basically do anything in the Selenium. You cannot launch any browser and all. Okay, so there is a systematic process. So let's see that. Okay, let's see this steps. So as I said, this is going to invoke the first, that is before suite. As you can see, setting up the drivers is getting executed first, which means that added before suite is executing first. Then it will go to the before test one. Okay, before test, which is, this is before test launching the browser. So after setting up the drivers, it must launch the browser. Okay, without launching the browser, you cannot perform any test execution. Okay, so this is before test. After that is executing the before class annotation. Okay, because it has setting up the driver, then it has launched the browser, then it must get the URL. Okay, because you want to perform, you want to proceed. Okay, that is the before class block is getting executed. Once the browser is launched with a URL, then you must enter the login credential because you want to proceed further, you want to log into the system. So that will execute within the before method. Okay, this is before method and enter login credential. So now you have logged in. Okay, so which means now you are, it's time for you to perform the test. That means it is coming to this at the rate test section. Okay, this is the test block. So basically, to perform this added test, you have got help of the other sections like before suite, before class, before method, before test. Okay. So as I said, basically the other annotation provides support to your added test method, added test annotation basically. Now you are done with the test execution. Now what do you want to perform after your test is executed? For that, we have the after section, after annotation section. Okay, we have after method, after class, after test, after suite. So right after this is executed, what is getting executed? You see this. Okay, it is executing the after method one. So basically, after your test is done, you want to log out from the application. That is after method. Okay, after that is done, you are done with your logout, then you want to close the browser. You want to quit the driver. So that is closing the driver, that comes under after class. Okay, you can see after class closing the driver. Okay, now you are done with closing the driver also. Okay, now you want to perform some more steps, that is you want to delete some file that is given in the after test. So this is after test, delete some files. After test, delete some files. Okay, so now we have seen the various blocks, the distribution of various test steps. Okay, with the help of TestNG annotation, we have understood why TestNG annotation is used. What is TestNG annotations? So basically, this is to distribute the flow of execution. These are the controller of the flow of the execution, as I said in the beginning, right? So now let me just implement the whole thing. Whatever we have understood so far, okay, we will implement with our live example. Okay, this is the live example code. So let me clear this. So this is the one code that we have seen in our previous tutorials, because as you can see, there are so many steps given in the same test block. Okay, I don't want to use it in the same test block because let's imagine currently this is just one test, but if I have two tests, three tests, four tests, okay, so I cannot keep on writing the same WebDriver manager, or I cannot keep on calling the same thing again and again. I cannot keep on calling the driver of get this URL in every test block. That is time consuming and this is not a real-time approach, right? So I want to put everything that are required before execution of the test in a certain block I want to put, so that I don't have to keep on writing the same thing again and again in the same at the rate test block. Okay, if I have multiple test methods, so that is the reason I want to go with I want to take help of the TestNG notation. So let me implement that. Okay, so let me take out this and I put it inside. Let me go here. I'll type at the rate before suite. Okay, so public void setup. Okay, so whatever I'm going to set up here, I want to basically provide this WebDriver manager.chrome driver.setup because this is the system.set property here. Okay, but I'm using here test WebDriver manager because I'm using the WebDriver manager. I'm not using the system.set property. I have not downloaded the chrome driver exe file separately. I'm not using the system.set property. If you want to understand it better, you can go and watch my one of my previous videos. I have explained about this. Okay, you can see here I'm using this WebDriver manager here, the jar file in my maven project. Okay, so let me proceed. Okay, I have used this particular line inside before suite. Okay, let me import. Now I have initialized the WebDriver here and I am creating the object for the Chrome driver class. I want to put this also in a separate block. Okay, let me cut this and I'll put it inside at the rate before test. Okay, so public void launch browser. After setting up the driver, I have to basically launch the browser. So I have to put this part here. Okay. So let me import this. And the next is, don't worry about these errors. These errors will go. Okay. I will show how to remove these errors. I'll also explain why this is getting error. Okay. After that, what I want to get is I want to get the URL, right? Let me type before class public void get URL. So let me put this inside here. So I will also basically maximize the window. I'll put it here itself. Okay. Yeah. So let me remove these errors now. Why I'm getting these errors? Because this variable, right? It is not able to recognize this variable because the WebDriver installation is not within this particular block. Okay. So this is here. So that is why it is not able to reach here. So let me do one thing. Let me take this out from here and I will declare it globally. I'll put it here. Okay. So let me remove this now. Okay. So now all the errors are gone. Okay. And so I have done before suite, before test, before class. Okay. Then let me give before method. So I can use before method also, but I'm not going to use it now because it's not required in my case. Okay. So you can, if you want, you can also use before method. Okay. If you want to, because I'm going to try with some URL, that browser webs.com, that does not have any login and all. I'm not going to show the login. So if you want to do a login part also, you can put that inside the before method. Okay, but no problem. Let me give that also. It's okay. Before method public void login. Okay, let me give that. So here, let me give. I'm not going to implement the login part because for the login and all, I'll be creating a separate video because I need to show the XPath and all separately. But I'm just for this particular example, I'm just typing here one sentence here that entered login creds, something like that. Okay. So now after that, I'm inside my test. So this test is basically about getting the title of this particular website, that is www.webs.com. So I'm using get title method here given by Selenium WebDriver. So after that, I'm going to print this particular website's title, and then I'm also going to get the current URL of this particular website, that is www.webs.com itself. Then I'll finally quit the driver. So basically this driver.quit, I'm going to put it inside my after class so that it can close the browser after the test is executed. So after class, okay, so public void close driver, I'm going to put it here. Okay, so now as you can see, my whole code, what was initially before, it is not looking the same now. Okay, so I have structured the whole, which was initially in the same test block, that is at the rate test, but now I have distributed the flow of each and every step by using the TestNG notation. So this is the purpose of using the TestNG notation. Okay, now let me run this code. As you can see, this is going to launch the browser with this particular URL. webs.com, and it is going to close the browser. It will perform the after class block also. So now let's see the result. So basically what happened is it has invoked this before suite because without that it cannot launch the browser without that Chrome driver setup. That's why it is able to launch it. So it has completed the before suite block. Then it has gone to the before test, which means it has launched the Chrome browser. Once before test is executed, it will go to the before class, right? Because the browser is launched, now it has to get the URL. It will launch the browser with the URL. Okay, so webs.com, as you can see in the execution, the webs.com, the URL got executed and it has been able to launch the browser with the URL. Okay, so before class is executed. After before class is executed, then it will go to the before method, because after browser is launched with the URL, then it has to enter the login credentials. Okay, so that's why you can see entered login credential is getting printed out. So it is not printing the other area because I have not used system.out.println for other methods, other annotations. That's why you are not able to see. You are directly able to see entered login credentials. But before entering this before method block, because it has actually performed the other annotations block. Okay, so do not get confused with that, because I have not used the system.out.println, so that is the reason it is not printing those lines. But before entering this particular block, it has actually executed those other blocks as well. But once the before method is executed, it has gone to the test block. Okay, then you can see this is able to get the webs.com website's title. That is, this is my website title, free website builder, create free websites webs. So I'm using system.out.println. That's why you are able to see the line, that particular title here. Then I'm also printing the current URL of that particular website, that www.webs.com. Okay, so my test block is executed here. After that, as you can see, this browser is also closed after this test execution is completed, which means that I have used after class. So after the class is done with the execution, so it is basically quitting the driver. Driver.quit has been executed. So basically, whole test case, whichever was there within the same edited test block before, has been distributed across different annotations. So everything has been executed in a flow. Okay. So this is the beauty of annotations. This is why you use TestNG annotations. So we have seen about how to implement TestNG annotations in our Selenium code, right? So I hope you have understood this program, you have understood this implementation. So that's all about this TestNG annotation. I would recommend you to keep practicing. If you are a beginner, you will come to know about this once you get hands-on on it, once you keep on practicing. Okay. If you have liked the video, please hit the like button. And if you are new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, any doubts, please drop those in the comment section. I'll also come up with a new topic, new video. Thank you. Thanks for watching.